Part 49. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 483. Inside the empty Jinluan palace. The cold and majestic voice of the Queen of Evernight sounded. Just listening to the voice, it is clear that this is an emperor who has been on the throne for a long time, sitting on a high throne, giving orders to the ministers in the audience, showing off his majesty as an emperor. However, what the other party said didn't sound right. If the subjects of Yanjai Kingdom knew that their aloof emperor issued an order to sleep with a man in the place where he usually handles government affairs, the government and the public would definitely be shaken. Everyone's jaw dropped. Shenjian was also a little stunned. It seemed that he did not expect that the Empress would dare to give him such an order here. Think of this. Shenjian took action. He strode forward. Climbing the white jade steps that only the Emperor and the Prince climbed, he approached the dragon throne step by step. The dragon chair is huge. The Queen of Evernight sat in the middle, leaving enough space on both sides to accommodate 2 or 3 people. Shenjian sat down. It was clear that the Empress pursed her lips, her back straightened slightly, and her delicate body hidden under the Emperor's uniform was slightly tense. Even if he doesn't look at the current status of the favorability panel, a veteran like him can easily decipher the psychological state of Queen Evernight at this time. Although there were 2 exchanges between them, because the Queen of Evernight modified reality and used the underworld road to resurrect the Evernight Kingdom, it consumed a lot of money. He could not be too rude and could only end it hastily. This time, the Empress personally invited her. How could he give up? Your Majesty, now that the Eternal Night Kingdom has been restored, I wonder what you are going to do next. Shenjian sat on the dragon chair and took the initiative to hold Queen Yanjai's hand. It was warm and smooth, like stroking a piece of beautiful jade, which made people unable to put it down. He could see that Queen Evernight was still a little nervous. After all, this is the Jinluan Palace. It is the place where the emperor handles government affairs on a daily basis and is the foundation of a country. How many policies need to be negotiated and implemented here? And now? But in such a place of pilgrimage, she openly had an affair with her lover. If it were another emperor, she would have been impeached long ago. Nervousness is inevitable. Therefore, he is guiding the Queen of Evernight to let go. And the future direction of Yanjai Kingdom is undoubtedly the fastest way to attract her. Really? Upon hearing this topic, Queen Evernight's original nervousness was replaced by a bit of strength. In the past few days, I have thought about it. The Emperor of Yanjai Kingdom cannot float in the sky forever. I need a piece of land to re-establish Yanjai Kingdom and restore its former prosperity. In front of Shenjian, she did not continue to maintain the majesty of the Emperor. There is no self-proclaimed I in the communication. Shenjian thought for a while. He smiled and said, if a ghost like you really shows up and plans to rebuild Yanjai Kingdom, the city lord of Nanjiang district will not sit still and wait for death. What's more, he will not be able to give up such a large territory to you. I want the land, why can't he give it to me? The Queen of Evernight sneered disdainfully. Previously, she had been dragging the imperial capital of Yanjai Kingdom along with her because her goal had not been achieved, but she was not afraid. If she were born, it would be the city lord of Nanjiang district who should be afraid. Of course he doesn't dare, but he is still the city lord of Nanjiang district and has managerial authority. If he doesn't want to, it will be difficult for others to get it. Once they attack him, the horror game will be alarmed and you will be forced into the deep level. Ghostland. Old God Shenjian spoke. He also learned these secrets from the mouth of the great priest. When he entered the dungeon of the Nanjiang city lord's mansion, his initial plan was to capture the city lord of Nanjiang district and take control of the city lord's mansion. It was a pity that the current city lord was not around at the time, otherwise he would have stepped into the Deep Ghost Realm long ago. Deep Ghost Realm, King Guo. Queen Evernight's calm voice suddenly changed. Because she saw Shen Jian put his hands on her slender waist and was about to untie the jade belt, her serious expression immediately made her unable to hold on any longer. Sure enough, I still haven't been trained before, and I can't bear it to this extent. Shen Jian thought this in his heart, but his eyes blinked and he said in surprise, "Your Majesty, you have a body of thousands of gold, so I won't trouble you to do such a small thing as undressing yourself." Press. The Queen of Evernight pretended to be calm. Then she saw that Shen Jian only untied her jade belt, revealing her proud figure that was bound in her robe, but did not proceed to the next step. There was some confusion in her eyes. "Didn't you always take off your clothes before? Why is it different this time?" Facing Queen Yanjai's puzzled gaze, Shen Jian muttered, "It's no longer interesting after solving the problem." He still wears a dragon robe and a crown to feel the desire to conquer. If we talk about the Queen of Evernight in a normal state, her desire to conquer is 100%. The Queen of Yanjai, who lives in the Golden Palace, wears a dragon robe, wears a crown, and sits on the dragon chair, her desire to conquer is 1000%. He wants to put his mark on this dragon chair. Thinking. The Queen of Evernight gritted her teeth, her heart pounding. He also started to pull at Shen's fitness clothes and reached out to reach down. Then, within a tenth of a second, she retracted her hand like an electric shock. The hot breath in the palm of my hand disappeared. She spat and turned her head slightly. Haven't seen any other movement for a long time. Shen Jian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The look of Queen Yanjai perfectly explained what it means to be addicted to food. "Your Majesty, I will leave all these matters to you. You just need to. Your Majesty, you are so beautiful," said. Shen Jian kissed her. The palms of my hands also started to be dishonest. Queen Evernight's eyes were half squinted. Shen Jian whispered in his ear again, "Your Majesty, when I obtain the authority to manage Nanjiang district, I will give you a complete eternal night kingdom." Hear this. Queen Yanjai felt as if her bones were numb. Two of the most wonderful things in the world, she got responses today. Even in the Jinluan Palace, I should still obey this little thief. Time flies. The Queen of Evernight is wrapped in a silk robe and soaked in the cold water. She rubbed her tired neck, but her expression looked very comfortable. At this time, a palace maid came to report. "Your Majesty, it has been packed." The maids all lowered their heads. The eyes looked at each other. They were still confused as to why His Majesty asked them to clean the Golden Palace, but after seeing the mess at the scene, they immediately understood something. He looked frightened and nervous. "Your Majesty, you have done such a ridiculous thing. If this were to be known, the future history would be marked with the reputation of debauchery and debauchery." At the same time, they were still thinking about who the lucky guy who was favored by His Majesty was. This person has a very important status in His Majesty's mind, otherwise His Majesty would not be so ridiculous in favoring him in the Golden Palace. Soon, they thought of someone at the same time. The Grand Marshal of Yanjai Kingdom, and also the powerful manager Shen. They were shocked when they thought of this answer. Because they are close to His Majesty, they know somewhat about manager Shen. It is said that manager Shen has a very ambiguous relationship with the Queen Mother of Sining Palace. This. At that time, the Empress and the Queen Mother were committed to the same person. The two most powerful people in the Yanjai Kingdom were willing to be taken over by the same person. If they said this, not everyone would believe it. "Is there anyone over there at Sining Palace?" Queen Evernight asked lazily. "Back to your Majesty, someone saw Mr. Shen going over there a few minutes ago." The palace maid's heartbeat quickened and she replied cautiously. "Manager Shen is seeking death." As soon as he left His Majesty's side, he ran to the Queen Mother's side. "Don't let it affect us weak and helpless little maids. They want to cry but have no tears. The head hung lower. Snored. The Queen of Evernight snorted coldly. Then there was no response. He closed his eyes and muttered, "This didn't even make you give up this idea. It seems that more will be added next time." Time flies. Half a month flies by in a blink of an eye. During this half-month, Shen Jian was enjoying his leisure time. The turmoil of the real world did not affect him in the slightest. The expansion of the underworld is also proceeding steadily. The city god temple in Ziping province has basically been completed. What he should consider now is the candidates for the city god in various places. And as the number of city god temples continued to increase, the number of city gods also increased, and it was no longer possible for him to personally accept the fate of everyone. He needs a helper to help him choose. As for this person, Shen Jian chose Zhang Ping. The other party is a remnant of the city god from the mythical period, and has a very deep understanding of the city god system. It would save him a lot of effort by letting him select candidates for the city god from various places. Besides, Handong province has also begun the construction of Chenghuang Temple. The surrounding cities where Ivy City is located are also experiencing this kind of wave. As for countries around the world, as the Angel's Advent incident intensified, a large number of horror game players began to go to the Dragon Kingdom through their own channels and began to inquire about the news. Especially, the location of the underworld. To this, Shen Jian ignored it. In front of him, a scarlet panel has emerged. The Nanjiang District Hegemony competition officially begins. It is detected that the player carries the title of Nanjiang District No. 1 Hegemon and can enter the game. It is detected that the player owns the real estate Vampire Castle and can enter the game. It is detected that the player has the position of Deputy City Lord of Nanjiang City Lord's Mansion and can enter the game. Note, this copy is a special copy and the rules have been changed. Note, this dungeon is a super large 5-star dungeon with unknown difficulty. Note, this copy is a full region participation mode. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 484. The scarlet panel emerged. Looking at the scene in front of him, Shen Jian knew that the Nanjiang District Championship had begun. At that time, all the supernatural places in the southern region will participate. The Redcoat level will be everywhere, and the Ghost King level will be as numerous as dogs. This will be a true national carnival. It's a feast for ghosts. Thinking. A line of fonts continues to emerge. It has been detected that the player is qualified to participate in the Nanjiang District Tournament and can enter the neutral ground. The game is about to begin. Enter. Without any hesitation, Shen Jian chose to enter. A second of hesitation is an insult to his title as the Lord of the Underworld. As the scarlet panel flashed by, the surrounding scene began to change. Shen Jian opened his eyes. Appeared in a bustling ghost market. The player has entered the neutral ground, Nanjiang Ghost City. Note, it is forbidden to use supernatural powers in neutral places, and violators will be expelled. Game countdown, 21:56. See it? Shen Jian looked as usual. This is the preparation before the game. Held by the Nanjiang District City Lord's Mansion. According to Pei Ninjian, the wife of the City Lord, during the Nanjiang District Hegemony competition, the participants were unable to effectively obtain various assistance and needed to prepare in advance before the competition. Walking in the ghost market, passing by the busy streets, Shen Jian glanced casually. Lack of interest. Because most of the people who also participated in the Nanjiang District Championship were red-clad ghosts. Before, he might have gone crazy with joy. But now, he has set his sights high. Not the Ghost King, he was too lazy to take action. As for the supernatural land with the Ghost King, It is a 4-star dungeon in Nanjiang District. Apart from the Vampire Castle and the Nanjiang District City Lord's Mansion, there are only a few large-scale supernatural places with such capital. Because of this, Shen Jian's goal has never been on this group of contestants. His goal has always been on the deep ghost realm he is about to enter. That's his stage. He has not forgotten that the required condition to unlock one of the 6 paths of reincarnation is Luo Feng Liuxian. The Qing kingdom he was about to enter was Zhouju Yin Tian Palace, one of the 6 heavens of Luo Feng. There are even world-destroying ghosts and gods there. The overall strength level is not at the same level as Nanjiang District. If the Nanjiang area is a novice area for players and the difficulty is hard mode, then the Winter Advent area is an advanced area, hell mode. The Deep Domain Ghost Domain is a death mode. And it is not the death difficulty of ordinary players, but the death difficulty of 5-star players. One can imagine what kind of place the Deep Ghost Realm is to players. That's a different kind of hell. Once you go in, there is no chance of coming out. Think of this. Shen Jian became even more excited. He wants King Guo, he wants ghosts and gods, and he also needs other powerful ghosts. The more the better. Especially for Ghost King level and above, the gap is huge. After all, as the number of city god temples in Handong province continues to increase, the number of city god candidates required is also increasing, and the number of Yinzai and Gazai needs to increase several times. At present, there is still support from the Kingdom of Evernight, and the gap can still be filled. But as time goes by, Yanjai Kingdom will sooner or later not be able to afford it. At this time, another Yin difference training base will be needed to steadily transport the talents needed by the underworld. Kingguo is such a place. Thinking. A surprised voice sounded. Yamluo? I just said why I didn't see you. Shen Jian was startled. Turn around and look. A man with heavy dark circles under his eyes and a pale face, who looked like he was about to die soon, ran over with a look of surprise on his face. The ID is Yaoya and the level is 38. Shen Jian was stunned. He recognized it. He was one of the players he met in the dungeon of the City Lord's Mansion in Nanjiang District. The city manager of Baidu City, Luo Quan. How dare you come? Shen Jian was a little surprised and looked at the other person up and down. This is a 5-star copy. How dare a level 38 city leader, who is not even a top ghost master, get involved? Did he underestimate the player's courage? Or is there some temptation in this copy that is more important than life? Hear this. Luo Quan's face immediately fell. He wanted to cry without tears and said, I don't want to come. When I saw it was a 5-star dungeon, I was so scared that I lost my mind. But the horror game didn't give me a chance to refuse. It said that I belonged to the Nanjiang District City Lord's Palace, and the City Lord's Palace decided to participate. I can only passively comply. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. Is there such a rule? If you think about it for a moment, it's normal. When players join the supernatural land and receive protection, they will naturally experience both prosperity and loss. Certainly. This may also be related to the fact that the player's status is low and he has no right to refuse. After all, he didn't receive the forced entry reminder. Are there any other players besides you? Shen Jian asked. Yes, and we have reached an agreement. I just saw you wandering around outside, so I came down to find you. Luo Quan's expression was very excited. Invite Shen Jian to come over. Shen Jian's strength is obvious to all. The red-clad fierce ghost suppressed him as he said, just for fun. In his opinion, Shen Jian at least possesses the strength above the Ghost King level. In the 5-star dungeon, such a powerful ally can be relied upon by all players. Hear the words. Shen Jian followed with great interest. Luo Quan joined the City Lord's Mansion law enforcement team because of his relationship with him, but the others had nothing to do with him. Being able to join the supernatural land of the horror game by virtue of his identity as a player, his strength should not be underestimated. Soon. The end of the ghost market. A restaurant came into view. The old diesel lamp was lit, exuding the unique smell of corpse oil. The light in the room also flickers on and off. Extremely penetrating. Shen Jian looked around. In the hall on the first floor, there are about 20 players of all kinds gathered. One by one they hide themselves in the darkness. Only half of the face is exposed. His expression was cold, as stiff as a dead person, and he exuded an aura that kept strangers away. And among these people, there were 4 people sitting at the round table openly and very quietly. 3 men and 1 woman. 2 Eastern faces, 2 Western faces. A flash of light flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. This is the first time he has encountered a Western-looking player. Strange. But that's not the point. Instead, he sensed the presence of 2 vampires among this group of people. One has an oriental face, his ID is Marquis, and his level is 56. He is a young man who wears a suit and tie and is meticulously groomed. He exudes a pampered temperament all over his body. At first glance, he looks like a top-rich second generation. One has a Western face, his ID is Robert, and his level is 57. Wearing medieval aristocratic clothing, he is a middle-aged man who looks to be in his 40s. His face is unusually fair, his red eyes are flashing, and his vampire characteristics are very obvious. Yamluo, let me introduce to you. This Marquis is a player who joined the vampire castle. He is also a top ghost master and is highly valued by the Earl of the Vampire Castle. Luo Quan introduced enthusiastically. At the same time, he lowered his voice and said, Yan Luo, you may not know that the Earl of this vampire castle, but the previous city lord of Nanjiang district, has the strength of the top Ghost King level. The players he likes are at least as strong as the Ghost King level. Shen Jian. And this Mr. Robert, he is not a player from Nanjiang district, but from Baidao district. He is also a player who joined the 4-star supernatural land. Among them, he is undoubtedly one of the top ghost masters, comparable to us. The top 10 ghost masters in the supernatural world. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. Somewhat unexpected. This Western-looking man is not from the vampire castle, but he has vampire blood. In other words, there is also a supernatural place related to vampire blood in Baidao district. Shen Jian was thoughtful. As for the player with the ID of Earl, if he guessed correctly, he should be one of the vampire aliens who plan to destroy the city god's temple in the real world. He remembered that the group of vampire aliens called themselves the Blood Clan. And one of the blood ancestors died in his hands. Now it seems that the power of this blood clan is far greater than he imagined, and it has also been connected with vampires in the Western world. Just as Shen Jian was looking at the 2 vampires, the middle-aged man with the ID Robert also raised his scarlet eyes, grinned, and said a few words to Shen Jian, if you don't want to die, get out. Shen Jian? His face looked a little strange. He hasn't caused trouble for the other party yet, but he didn't expect that the other party has a bad mouth. Provoke him first. Think about it. Shen Jian took out his mobile phone. I took several photos of the 2 vampires and planned to send them to the 3 sisters at the vampire castle for them to investigate. As the ancestor of vampires, he is the ancestor of all vampires, and he needs to know the whereabouts of the other turtle grandchildren. Robert? He froze. Are all the current Eastern players this aggressive? He was just provoking on the spot, and there was not much malice. He just felt that a vampire died in Qingshi's territory, and Shen Jian was the person in charge of Qingshi. He loved his family so much that he would not have a good impression of Shen Jian. Dispersing the opponent is a normal reaction. Only, he never expected that this Eastern player would actually shoot him. It was shot very openly. What's even more outrageous is that the flashlight is turned on. What do you want to do on horseback? Just when this thought flashed through Robert's mind, he saw that Shen Jian was already typing on his mobile phone. It's like writing something down in a small notebook. Robert? Seeing Shen Jian's operation, his expression suddenly darkened. He looked deeply at Shen Jian several times. A level 53 player, even though he is somewhat famous in the supernatural forum and has the strength of a ghost king, before becoming an alien, human beings are still human beings. How can a human defeat a ghost in a supernatural confrontation? Even though Shen Jian has the strength of a ghost king, he also has it, and he is a vampire, an alien, and born invincible. If Shen Jian dares to provoke him, he is really seeking death. Robert said coldly, "Yellow-skinned monkey, you have the courage." Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Pressed a few more times on the phone. Unprovoked provocations, loud noises, illegal gatherings, are already a recipe for death. He cannot use supernatural powers in a neutral place, otherwise he will be expelled. For such a small character, it is not worth taking such a risk. But no one stipulates that foreign aid cannot be invited in a neutral place. Shen Jian sent a message, "Madam City Lord, come quickly, I'm being bullied. I have something to do. I'll make up for it this afternoon." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 485. In a dimly lit restaurant. The atmosphere was so solemn that it seemed as if it had been filled with lead. No one expected that the first thing that happened when the players gathered was internal strife. One of them is still one of the strongest players among the players present. They also knew something about the player whose ID was Robert. In the supernatural forum, people often compared the top 10 ghost masters in the supernatural circle with those in the Western world. The fight was fierce. Among them, Robert is the undisputed one. His strength ranks third among the top 10 ghost masters. Not only is he a top ghost master, he is also a vampire alien himself. And the players who conflict with it are not simple either. He is the most famous player in the supernatural circle, codenamed Yan Luo, and is the person in charge of Qing City. It is rumored that he also has Ghost King level strength. What's more, some people think that Yama has far more strength than 5-star players, but the game level is not up to standard, so they condescend to 4-star players. A conflict broke out between these two people, which was not a good thing. Many players frowned. Everyone thought that Shen Jian was making a fuss out of a molehill. It was just a provocation and he actually took photos of others in public. How is this different from launching a supernatural attack? You know, many ghosts' supernatural powers are activated through various media, and photos are obviously one of them. Such behavior is too unstable. I don't know how to put the overall situation first. After all, they are now forced to enter a 5-star dungeon, a dungeon with 10 deaths and no life. Logically speaking, they should cooperate with each other and work together to pass the level. But now, the two most powerful ghost masters are in conflict. Future cooperation may be postponed. Think of this. Everyone's expressions were not good looking. For a while, the atmosphere seemed to be frozen. At this time, Shen Jian finished sending the message. Moved directly. Slowly walked towards Robert, and murmured at the same time, "Your eyes are too dangerous. You dare to threaten me now. You may want to kill me next time. And I am a timid person. If you stare like this, I may die tonight. I can't even sleep. I'm sorry, just taking a photo is not enough. I also need to know your name, identity, and where you live," said Shen Jian approached and took out a scalpel. Here, let me cut off some flesh and blood tissue for testing and comparison, so that we can know your true identity. Robert? Players? Damn it! What kind of bullshit logic are you talking about? Are you blatantly looking for trouble? Looking at Shen Jian's actions, everyone was stunned. Even Robert was stunned for a moment. He has seen too many fools. But this was the first time he had seen such a high-level fool. God, cut off some flesh and blood tissue for testing. Do you think this is human language? If you are timid, if you are daring, wouldn't you be going to the devil's waste? Yamluo, are you trying to break up with me? Robert stood up suddenly. His scarlet eyes became even redder, and when he spoke, his fangs were exposed, and powerful supernatural waves spread across his body. Snapped. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. A big dick slapped him over. Pei Ran slapped the opponent away with great force. Hit the wall. You're so scary, I need to know your real address to feel at ease. Shen Jian, the old Shinto. Players. One bite is terrifying, and then the others are slapped away. Damn it! Who is this scary? Why do we feel that you are much scarier than the other person? The players were shocked and confused. Because of Shen Jian's power, something was wrong. In a neutral place where the use of supernatural beings is prohibited, humans cannot be the opponents of evil spirits. However, Shen Jian not only slapped Robert in the face, but also slapped him away several meters away. Normal humans don't have such power. You wanna die? Robert came back from his daze and touched his swollen face with a look of disbelief on his face. This person dared to attack him even if he disagreed with her. Isn't he afraid of being sanctioned? It is forbidden to use supernatural powers in a neutral place, which is actually a prohibition on using hands. Once discovered, expulsion is easy. According to his intelligence, if he was discovered in a neutral place, the best result would be to be imprisoned, or even worse, to be killed on the spot by the law enforcement team. Think of this. He grinned evilly. It's worth trading a slap for the other person's life. Then he shouted loudly. It attracted many fierce ghosts to watch. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. Another slap in the face. Cursing, he said, hurry up, write down your real address, and note several people in your family. I am most afraid of being targeted by evil people. I must have information about your family to feel at ease. Seeing the scene of bullies oppressing good people, everyone present fell silent. They looked at Shen Jian with different eyes. I don't understand where this hanging man can get the nerve to call others evil people. Forget about beating someone up, you still blatantly threaten the victim and demand that the other person disclose family information. Why, you still want to kill other people's families? Grass. Even the word evil is not enough to describe you. The evil forces in the old society are not as evil as you. Yan Luo, you have gone too far. Mr. Robert is an international friend after all, and he is one of the main players in our dungeon. Are you determined to let everyone die in the dungeon like this? There was silence in the atmosphere, and the young man with the ID of Marquis stood up. As soon as he opened his mouth, all the players became dissatisfied with Shen Jian. Yes. They are allies in this instance. However, Shen Jian's actions are actively widening the gap between the East and the West. Once they become disloyal, they will be one step closer to failing their mission. And the consequence of failing the mission is death. This is equivalent to taking their lives as a joke. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Walking towards the other turtle grandson. See this. The eyes of the young man whose ID was Marquis jumped. He subconsciously took a few steps back. Then I realized that this behavior was a bit embarrassing, so I stopped abruptly and said with a stern expression, "What? You want to do something to me? You have to think clearly." The law enforcement team will be here soon. Your behavior has already reached the level of neutrality, the bottom line of the land. Once discovered, you will be dead. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. Approaching straight away. He looked like he wanted to reward the other party with a few big dicks. At this time, a cold ghostly complaint sounded. Who is doing this here? Don't you want to live anymore? The words fell. A ghost king with blood and tears in his eyes walked in wearing the clothes of a law enforcement team. He was the former captain of the 2nd Law Enforcement Team of the Nanjiang City Lord's Mansion, and now he is the captain of the 1st Law Enforcement Team, leading the entire law enforcement team. Responsible for maintaining order in Nanjiang Ghost Market. As soon as I got closer, the Blood Sea Ghost King saw both sides fighting for it. I saw Shen Jian approaching the marquee step by step, and then, in full view of everyone, he slapped me again. This moment, the air was quiet. All the players in the audience were stunned. His eyes were full of disbelief. Shall I wipe it? Beating someone in front of the law enforcement team. This player codenamed Yamluo is too crazy. Did he think what others said was a joke? Or does he feel that he does not need to abide by the rules of the neutral ground? That's too arrogant. How did such a person reach level 53? The other side. The marquis who was slapped felt his face burning with pain at first, and then his face lit up with joy. Too arrogant. This Yama is too arrogant and domineering. But arrogance is good. I wouldn't dare to hit him in front of the law enforcement team if I wasn't arrogant. This time, Shen Jian was really dead. Jesus came and could not save him. The vampires are currently unable to deal with the underworld, but it would not be bad if they could kill a person in charge of Qing City to scare the monkeys and destroy the prestige of the underworld. Think of this. The marquis touched his face, pointed at Shen Jian, and screamed, Captain Blood Sea, he beats people in front of you on a neutral ground, arrest him quickly. Blood Sea Ghost King. He looked blankly at Shen Jian, then at the Marquis and Robert, who were obviously victims, and felt 10,000 grasshoppers running in his heart. Damn it! You thick eyebrows and big eyes actually want to harm me. If I dare to say the word help, I'm afraid I won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. He had seen Shen Jian's methods more than once. The first time was against the captain of the first team of law enforcers. When the enemy was obviously under the influence of drugs and promoted to the abyss-level ghost, he killed him with a scythe. The second time, he was dealing with a group of cult members in Happy Town. At that time, a ghost was revived by the cult group, and it was Shen Jian who killed him with 3 swords. You want me to arrest such a man? Are you kidding me? When he thought of the scene where Shen Jian killed the Manchuo ghost and god with 3 swords, he felt a chill in his heart. It was simply a terrifying ghost and god wearing human skin. Thinking. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Blood Sea Ghost King. Prepare to see how the captain of the law enforcement team will deal with Shen Jian. Marquis, Robert is also always ready to pretend to be another wave of victims, leaving Shen Jian dead without a complete body. Then, under the spotlight, the Blood Sea Ghost King spoke, who hit someone? Why didn't I see anyone hit someone? Did you see it? He looked back at the rest of the law enforcement team. No. Captain, we didn't see it. We only saw someone fall down at the scene and his face was swollen, but no one did anything. The other team members also recognized Shen Jian and almost knelt down. One by one agreed. A group of players? Robert? Marquis? Everyone was confused. Eyes widened. Damn it! What's going on? Shen Jian hit someone in front of the law enforcement team. How could the law enforcement team not see it? Even if you are all blind when riding horses, at least you can hear the applause. How can you open your eyes and tell lies? What exactly is going on? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 486. At this time, there was an uproar. All the players were stunned. My head is a little confused. Even the two victims, Marquis and Robert, were brain drilling throughout the whole process. Some did not understand the attitude of the members of the law enforcement team. If they were not the victims, with the support of so many members of the law enforcement team, they would probably believe that Shen Jian did not hit anyone. What the hell? There is a shady story. They reacted immediately. It wasn't that the law enforcement team was blind, but that Shen Jian instigated this group of people. Otherwise, the other party will not give false evidence in person. But why? As a level 53 player, Shen Jian, even if he has some strength, what capital does he have to instigate rebellion against the captain of the law enforcement team of the City Lord's Palace? That was an abyss-level Ghost King. And is in charge of an entire law enforcement team. In the Nanjiang City Lord's mansion, his status is only lower than that of the mysterious Deputy City Lord and the newly appointed female City Lord. How could he, a player, instigate rebellion against such a terrifying existence? They couldn't figure it out. But it didn't stop them from knowing that the captain of the law enforcement team was determined to protect Shen's health, and for this reason, he would not hesitate to help this evil leader perjury in public. Black. It's just too dark. Hell is empty, evil spirits are in the world. It doesn't matter that there are shady stories in the real world, but there are also some in the horror world. Is there any royal law in this world? However, Shen Jian ignored this. He just glanced at the Blood Sea Ghost King, then walked to the young man with the ID of Marquis, grinned and said, "You also tell me the base of the vampire clan, and I can let you die more happily." Hear this. The Marquis pupils shrank. He looked at Shen Jian in disbelief. I don't seem to understand how Shen Jian, a city leader, knows this. I don't know, The words just fell. Shen Jian smacked his mouth expressionlessly. If the vampire dares to plan to destroy the city god's temple to undermine the prestige of the underworld, they must be prepared to accept his revenge. Now that he met an insider, maybe even one of the blood ancestors, he would naturally not miss it. As you can see, he hit someone again. Is this how the law enforcement team enforces the law? Saw this scene. Robert also yelled at the law enforcement team. His face was ashen. In the past, in the real world, they used relationships to put pressure on others. Unexpectedly, today, they actually tried such a shady trick. Blood Sea Ghost King. Hear this. He smiled sinisterly and said, "What are you beating? I'm blind and can't see." What? Do you want to try how the law enforcement team enforces the law? What are you barking at? Robert was so angry that his whole body was shaking. I wanted to say something, but finally closed my mouth slowly. It seems to be connected to something. Not long after, a rushing sound came from outside. "Lord City Lord, right here, we from Bidao district came all the way, but such a shady incident happened. The people of your law enforcement team secretly protected the murderer. If it cannot be dealt with fairly, the Nanjiang City Lord's mansion will have no credibility in the future. I understand. If there are really members of the law enforcement team covering up the murderer, I will deal with it myself." A cold and somewhat charming voice sounded. Just by listening to the sound, you can tell that its owner is no different. The Blood Sea Ghost King was stunned. Look back. It was the City Lord's wife who came. There was a bit of sarcasm and pity in his eyes. Whoever is not good to please, please come out of the City Lord's wife. Isn't this an old man who eats arsenic and seeks death? Soon, a beautiful and graceful figure walked into the restaurant. Attracted everyone's attention. The woman has big wavy black hair. The bridge of the nose is high and the appearance is exquisite. Her curvy figure was wrapped in a purple dress. Slender waist, perky butt. In the real world, this is undoubtedly a universal goddess-level existence. Even the characteristics of a fierce ghost cannot cover up her own charm. This is a cool beauty who appeals to everyone's aesthetic standards. Including the players present, there were also surprises in their eyes. Then he lowered his head hastily. I was afraid of attracting the hostility of this beautiful ghost. After all, they heard the name just now clearly. Lord City Lord. There is no doubt that this extremely beautiful female ghost is the new female city lord of Nanjiang district. The captain of the law enforcement team is just a subordinate in front of him. That Robert actually had the ability to please the female city lord. This moment. All players have different thoughts. The situation has also become confusing. Pei Ninjian, the wife of the city lord, saw a bit of suspicion in her eyes when she saw the Blood Sea Ghost King, but she still walked in and saw a human man beating others. And that figure from the back is very familiar. It was so familiar that it made her heart tremble. Some embarrassing memories from the past came to mind. It's him. It's that enemy. It was the man who made her shout she will belong to the master for the rest of her life. Why did he have a conflict with others? Not injured. Thoughts are swirling. Robert had already taken the lead and cried, Lord City Lord, you have to make the decision for us. This man beat us for no reason, but the law enforcement team chose to cover up openly. It is unjust. Pei Ninjian, the wife of the city lord, frowned and shouted coldly, take it down. As soon as these words came out, all the players in the audience were shocked. Sighed. Understand that it's all over. So what if he instigated rebellion against the captain of the law enforcement team? Could he also instigate rebellion against the female city lord? Justice is in the heart of the people. A moment of arrogance will only cause trouble for oneself. After all, the horror world is not something that players can do arbitrarily. Robert's face lit up with joy. The Marquis, who was being slapped in the face, also showed a bit of resentment in his eyes. He wanted to see how this Yama would die. 1 minute later, Robert looked at the members of the law enforcement team who detained him, feeling confused. The Marquis looked at the members of the law enforcement team who had detained him, and his mind went blank for a while. The players looked at it with even more astonishment. What's going on? You bet on the wrong person. Shouldn't the one who beats the person be taken down? What the hell is this about taking a victim? Lord City Lord, you have arrested the wrong person. You should arrest him instead. Robert was still trying to explain. But he was kicked with a knee and elbow by a member of the law enforcement team. He smiled sinisterly and said, I still don't understand the situation. Hear this. Robert and the Marquis were both struck by lightning. His pupils were widened and his mouth was slightly open. Could it be? At this time, Shen Jian also walked over. Waved his hand, take them down and they will be left to you. Be sure to ask me what I want to know. Etc. The Marquis panicked. What? Can you still invite the old city lord? Shen Jian teased. Instinctively, he reached out and hugged Pei Ninjian, the wife of the city lord. The city lord's wife was startled and glared at Shen Jian, her eyes stopping. She is a married woman. Even if she has no relationship with her husband, she is still the wife of the city lord in name. If she hugs a strange man in public, something big will happen. See this. Shen Jian didn't force it either. Once he obtains the managerial authority of Nanjiang district, even if he is discovered, he will not need to hide anything. I am from the vampire castle. Your city lord's palace has no right to deal with me. If you want to deal with me, you must get the consent of the vampire castle, unless you want to go to war with the vampire castle. Hear this. Pei Ninjian, the wife of the city lord, frowned subconsciously. There was a bit of hesitation in his eyes. The foundation of the vampire castle is indeed much stronger than the current city lord's mansion. The current city lord's mansion is not suitable for conflict with such a large supernatural place. She subconsciously looked at Shen Jian. If Shen Jian didn't change his mind, she would naturally obey. However, she saw Shen Jian's expression slightly startled. Look up. In an instant. Looking for blood, I finally found you. Three voices sounded simultaneously. Everyone took a look. In mid-air, three beautiful vampires with different styles retracted their bat wings and landed. One person was wearing a long rose dress, with a smiling face, but she seemed to be repelling people thousands of miles away, like a rose with thorns. One person was wearing a black dress made of lace, with her head held slightly high, giving her the image of a strong and unreasonable aristocratic lady. One person was wearing a red evening dress, her fiery red hair was as sexy as blood, her scarlet pupils flashed slightly, and her face showed a bit of shyness. It is the three sisters from the vampire castle. Shangguanwan, Shangguangzi, Shangguanya. Huh? Vampire? From our family. The second young lady, Shangguan 11, looked at the Marquis and immediately recognized that his vampire bloodline came from their family. Lord, are you arresting him? She asked Shen Jiandeo. Second miss. At this time, the Marquis was also dumbfounded. Aren't these three people the three eldest ladies of the vampire castle? How come even the Batwings have returned to their ancestors? Isn't this a characteristic that only second-generation vampires can possess? Even the Lord Vampire Count is only a third-generation vampire. How come his three granddaughters are second-generation vampires? What happened in Vampire's castle? Besides, why do the three ladies sound like they know Shen Jian? A bad premonition suddenly flashed through his heart. But he still asked for help. Three eldest ladies, the people from the Nanjiang City Lord's mansion captured me indiscriminately. I am from the vampire castle. They are undoubtedly despising the vampire castle. Hear this. The three sisters all looked at Shen Jian. There is something I need to inquire about. Shen Jian glanced at the city lord's wife Paininjian, whose eyes were no longer right, and explained. Are you tired after this? I'll rub your shoulders for you. Third Miss Shang Guanwan said with a gentle smile. Oh, he's just a fifth-generation vampire. I can help you interrogate him and make sure he tells you everything. Second Miss Shangguan 11 smiled cruelly. I'm pretty good at torturing people. The eldest lady Shangguanya's tone was cold, but her eyes were extremely sinister. Marquis? A group of players. Damn it. How far has your humming network spread? You instigated a rebellion in the Nanjiang City Lord's mansion, but you can also instigate a rebellion in the vampire castle? It's noisy. Shady. This is definitely the biggest scandal in the history of Nanjiang district. Two supernatural places blatantly harbored a player who broke the rules. Also asked for help. The relationship is not simple at first glance. Whether it is the female city lord or the three sisters of the vampire castle, they all seem to have an inexplicable relationship with Shen Jian. Think of this. All the players looked like they were in an uproar. Others come to the horror world to survive, but you come to the horror game to expand the fish pond. Grass. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 487. Despair. It wasn't until the moment he was taken away that the young man with the ID of Marquis believed this fact. I believed that the three eldest ladies in the vampire castle were all having an affair with this Yama, and their relationship was unclear. His so-called backer had stabbed him in the back a long time ago. At this time, he couldn't explain why. It was clear that he was right and did not violate any rules of a neutral place, but he was beaten for no reason, and in the end, he, the victim, was imprisoned. What the hell? Is there any heavenly principle? The Marquis watched helplessly as the members of the law enforcement team yelled at him and cast sinister glances at him. At that moment, he was completely desperate. This world is too dark. Until they were taken away, the two were still trying to struggle. But it had no effect at all. Shen Jian looked at it. His eyes flashed for a moment. These two vampires are of great value. The young man with the ID of Marquis is most likely the one behind the destruction of the city god's temple and one of the blood ancestors of the vampire clan. From the opponent's mouth, you can pry the vampire's base area. The middle-aged man with the ID of Robert is not a vampire transformed from the vampire castle, but he has the same thin bloodline as him. There is no doubt that this is also a pure low-blooded vampire. From the other party's mouth, he might be able to know more about second-generation vampires and above. To know. As the third-generation vampire, the vampire count is already a top Ghost King level existence. As for the second generation and above, unless they were born not long ago, they are at least a top Ghost King, or even, a Ghost God level. For a fierce ghost of this level, he accepted them all. It is not only preparation for expanding the number of yin difference, but also preparation for unlocking the 6 paths of reincarnation in the future. One of the 6 paths of reincarnation, the human path, the unlocking condition is to completely recover one of Luo Feng's 6 days. What about the divine realm, the Azure realm, the hell realm, the animal realm, and the hungry ghost realm? These also require unlocking conditions. In case the unlocking requirement is more ghosts and gods, or ghosts and gods above the world-destroying level, he might as well take precautions now. Thinking. Shen Jian came to his senses. I saw the beautiful eyes of the city lord's wife Paininjian slightly moving, and she just looked at the 3 sisters in the vampire castle with a smile. The third young lady, Shang Guanwan, looked at Shen Jian and then at the city lord's wife. She curled her lips and immediately understood something and spat at Shen Jian. The second young lady, Shang Guan 11, glared at the city lord's wife and held her head high, as if she was declaring the initiative. The eldest lady Shang Guanya's scarlet eyes flashed, and she looked at the city lord's wife coldly, and she also returned the aristocratic smile without showing her teeth. I have long heard that someone in the vampire castle has returned to the 2nd generation of vampire blood. When I saw it today, it turned out to be powerful. It seems that this should be the work of someone. The city lord's wife glanced at Shen Jian. The tone of voice emphasized the word someone a little bit. Hey, thank you, auntie. The second young lady covered her mouth and smiled. City lord's wife? Ah, auntie. She opened her mouth and was a little stunned, obviously offended by the title. However, the adaptability of being in a high position for a long time made her calm down quickly, and she responded in a neutral tone, "You're welcome, but I heard that the second young lady should have a husband. To show her face like this and come out to find a man, I'm afraid it won't sound good if I say it out loud." You. The second young lady, Shang Guan 11, glared, "I have already divorced him, but madam." Ahem, okay, I have something to entrust to you. The situation is extremely urgent. I just want to know the result tonight. Shen Jian stood up, interrupting the increasingly fierce Shura field. If a normal person had rolled over like this, he would have lost 5.5 pounds of ashes. But his situation was different. Although the city lord's wife had a romantic relationship with him, it was obtained through cheating. In essence, they had a casual relationship with him and were not considered a formal lover. Most of the 3 sisters in the vampire castle were influenced by his first embrace, and the vampire blood was subtly affecting the consciousness of the 3 sisters. To put it simply, it is the effect of self-brain supplement and partial hypnosis. Neither can be considered a normal lover. Such a Shura field will disappear as long as he intervenes forcefully. Hear Shen Jian speak. The four girls said nothing more. Shen Jian took the opportunity and said, "Madam, you just saw that some of the information from these two people is very useful to me and I need to get it." The city lord's wife rolled her eyes at Shen Jian and said angrily, "I understand, I will supervise." Said. She turned around and left. The slender waist twisted, the curly hair swayed, and the back looked very enchanting, making people's hearts flutter. I wish I could pounce on him and execute him on the spot. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. But he quickly withdrew his gaze, turned to the three sisters, and said, "Do you know that strange vampire just now?" "I don't know. He is obviously of vampire blood, but we have no impression at all. It seems like he appeared out of thin air." The third lady Shang Guanwan shook her head. "Tch, catch him, interrogate him, and you will know where his vampire bloodline comes from." The second lady smiled sinisterly, and her scarlet eyes flashed away. "Maybe, it's a supernatural place established by the disappeared vampires of the second generation and above. I heard my grandfather mention it before, saying that one day, all the vampires of the second generation and above disappeared without a trace." The eldest lady Shang Guanya explained. "Hear the words." Shen Jian was thoughtful. He continued, "Forget it if you don't understand. You guys can help me find the humans who were transformed in the vampire castle. I need to know their whereabouts." The three women nodded. After looking at the increasingly lively restaurant, he snorted coldly. The terrifying supernatural waves emitted by the three abyss-level ghosts enveloped the entire place in an instant. The ghosts around him felt their faces turned pale, and their whole bodies could not help but tremble, as if they were running for their lives. "Stay away from here." Then, he spread his bat wings and disappeared into the distance. Until half a moment. The players present were finally relieved from the tense atmosphere. The look he looked at Shen Jian was like looking at some kind of god. His eyes were full of horror. "I can't even close my mouth. Damn it! This is too awesome." The captain of the law enforcement team who can drive the city lord's palace, and the newly appointed female city lord also has great trust in him, and he directly chooses to detain the victim without even asking about the cause and effect. This trust has gone beyond normal relationships between friends, colleagues, and even subordinates. Even a fool would not believe it if there was nothing fishy between the two of them. The more they thought about it, the creepier they felt. After all, the husband of this female city lord is the old city lord of Nanjiang district, and he is an abyss-level ghost king. If he found out that his wife was having an affair with a strange man, she would probably tear Shen Jian apart. This is a true act of seizing food from the tiger's mouth, putting life and death at risk. He went so far as to date the wife of an abyss-level ghost king. They couldn't think of a bolder word other than awesome. Just when they thought this was Shen Jian's limit. This man actually has some kind of relationship with the three eldest ladies of the vampire castle. Moreover, these three sisters seem to know each other's situation. But still willing. This scene. It shattered their outlook. Three sisters plus one boy. This is four. More importantly, the looks of these three eldest ladies are also in line with human aesthetics. One is docile, one is arrogant, and the other is steady. In the real world, I don't know how many people would be the goddess in their dreams. Now she is entangled with a man, unclear. To this, Shen Jian looked as usual. It's like nothing happened. His eyes suddenly turned to another Western face at the four-person table. That was the only female player present. The ID is Lucy and the level is as high as 56. In a thriller game, the sudden appearance of such a high-level female player is a miracle. Shen Jian walked over. "Look away." It was a petite woman with long blonde hair and blue eyes. She looked to be in her 20s, not much older than him. But the strange thing is that there is an indescribable charm in a woman that makes a man deeply attracted to her at the first sight and unable to extricate himself. If you look at it for a few more times, your blood will surge and you will have the instinctive reaction of an animal. Even if it is covered with a veil, the impact is still strong. Seeing this, the other players turned their heads with difficulty, forcing themselves not to look. In the supernatural world, if you cannot effectively control this instinct, you are not far from death. However, Shen Jian is different. He looked over openly. Even walked closer and stared. Don't treat others as outsiders at all. A group of players. Lucy. She covered her veil with a bit of fear in her eyes. It's incredible to see the huge network of connections that Shen Jian has. But think about it for a moment. She also thought this might be an opportunity. If she can charm Shen Jian, she might be able to gain access to Shen Jian's network. Whether it is the Nanjiang City Lord's mansion or the vampire castle, they are all valuable aids to her and can help her in the next 5-star dungeon. Then, she reached up and lifted the veil. It revealed a face that, although not stunning, was attractive and charming. What do you find me for? Shen Jian examined it a few times and nodded. See it? The smile on Lucy's face grew wider. That's it? In the past, the men who were charmed by her, like Shen Jian, first agreed with her and then became her captives. You are a descendant of ghosts and gods, right? Which ghost and god are you? Where are you? Shen Jian asked with narrowed eyes. The female player whose ID is Lucy has a very strong aura of ghosts and gods on her body, and she looks like she belongs to ghosts and gods at first glance. This was the first time he had seen a human player become a descendant of ghosts and gods. Lucy? You have seen my face, you ask me this? Grass. Too straight. You can have an affair with a married woman, but it doesn't look like you are straight. How could you ask such a disgraceful question? Lucy couldn't stand it at all. She blinked and said delicately, handsome guy, do you just want to ask me this kind of question? Shen Jian said with some disgust, don't throw it away, I don't like to see this. Tell me, which ghost and god are you? The aura on your body is so strong that it's like you are serving the ghost and god. As soon as these words came out, Lucy's expression changed greatly. He looked at Shen Jian with a horrified expression. I wanted to stand up, but found that I was in a restaurant instead of in a deserted space. There is a pothole next to it. Like it was dug for her. Tell me, my patience is limited. Shen Jian said indifferently. Lucy was silent for a few seconds, as if trying something, and finally gave up. He said in a hesitant tone, I told you, will you let me go? Of course, I'm not a murderer. Shen Jian said a little strangely. Lucy. She looked at the pothole beside her with a slightly speechless look. What the hell? How come I don't believe this when I hear this from you? But the situation is stronger than people, she has to believe it. Then. Lucy explained, you guessed it right, I serve ghosts and gods and am one of the maids. What is it called? I don't know, but we call her, Cleopatra. The look of surprise in Shen Jian's eyes deepened. This ghost and god is in the real world. Lucy hesitated. But he nodded. Yes. As early as a year ago, she came to the real world and was discovered by us. She did not take action against us. She just spread the ghost domain to the pyramid, transformed it, and then lived there. I am one of the maids chosen by her. Hear this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. It seems that Manchuo ghosts and gods are not the first ghosts and gods to come to the real world. In the Western world, the water is deeper than he imagined. A long time. Send Lucy back to the restaurant. Shen Jian also left here. Now that the Nanjiang District Championship was about to start in less than 1 day, he did not go back, so he could only suppress the Cleopatra incident. It's urgent. Just to deal with the follow-up of Shura Field. Otherwise, the favorability of the city lord's wife will most likely drop. Among all the evil ghosts he has conquered, the favorability of the city lord's wife should be considered the most difficult to conquer. So far, the favorability score has reached 82 points. Can reach the stage of intimacy. If it falls, it will take even more time to rise again. He must consolidate and consolidate. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 488. Countdown, 1336. Shen Jian looked at the countdown on the scarlet panel and knew that time was running out. The opening of the neutral land is to give participants who enter the deep ghost realm a buffer time. Once the time is up, all players will enter the game copy, including the 2 vampires who had been escorted down. Because of this, he needed to learn about the headquarters of the Blood Tribe from 2 players before the dungeon was opened. After, both of them have completely lost their value. As for the ghost and god that appears in the real world, just go and see it sometime. This is the first time he has seen ghosts and gods who are so friendly to humans. The female player with the ID of Lucy, because she has served ghosts and gods all year round, has not only become a dependent of ghosts and gods, but also has a strong aura of ghosts and gods. In the world of horror, this is a gold medal to avoid death. No evil ghost would be stupid enough to provoke a being related to ghosts and gods, even if it was just a human being. Think of this. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. This Western world thriller game player cheats. No wonder a random player has a game level as high as level 57. The novice stage has the aura of ghosts and gods, and is contaminated by ghosts and gods. Before encountering the 4-star copy of the Ghost King level ghost, it is simply killing indiscriminately. It is not unusual to have such a level. And the other party's way of controlling the powerful ghost is also very interesting. It is through worshipping ghosts and gods to obtain terrible supernatural powers. Every time you use your supernatural power, it is equivalent to letting the aura of ghosts and gods descend once. Over time, the living characteristics of your body will gradually disappear, turning into a living sacrifice that is most suitable for ghosts and gods to parasitize. At that time, humans will be transformed into ghosts. Become a ghost believer with human consciousness. Thinking. It's almost evening. Shen Jian came to the largest building in Nanjiang Ghost City. Feel it a little bit. The figure disappeared in place. When it reappears, already standing on a balcony of a high-rise building, Pei Ninjian, the wife of the city lord, was looking out the window, as if thinking about something. The breeze blew, blowing her messy long hair. Sensing Shen Jian's arrival, she elegantly tucked her messy long hair behind her ears. The slim figure straightened slightly. Let that touch of arrogance become more and more obvious. Every move is full of femininity. It fully explains what it means to be charming. This kind of charm of mature women made Shen Jian restless. At the same time, he also laughed a little. A normal city lord's wife would not show her charm to him like this. She has a strong and aggressive personality, and treats both men and women the same way. She doesn't deliberately show off her charm at all. It seems. The words of the second young lady Shangguan 11 still made her feel unhappy. What are you doing here? There are 3 of them, and I am just an old woman. I am not as attractive as them. The city lord's wife was secretly happy when she saw that Shen Jian's eyes were always on her, but her expression remained calm. See this. Shen Jian walked over. He said calmly, that's different. Your maturity, your charm in every frown, and your queenly way of treating men are not something that can be replaced by just anyone. But I am already an old woman. The city lord's wife slightly arched her eyebrows, and then said with a straight face, "Time never fails a beauty. Madam, you are like the finest red wine. The more it settles, the mellower the fragrance will be and the better the taste will be. Besides, how can Madam you age?" said. Shen Jian had already hugged him. He asked the city lord's wife Pain Ninjian to sit on his lap. Here. The corners of the city lord's wife's lips were already raised, and her arms were wrapped around Shen Jian's head and hooked around his neck. There was a strange light in her eyes, as if she was very useful. "How many women have you said this to?" "Only you." Shen Jian's face didn't turn red and his heart didn't beat. "Then, do you prefer me or the three in the vampire castle?" Shen Jian. "Think about it." Shen Jian explained, "I think everyone's aesthetics are different. Some people like undefeated plum blossoms in the wind and snow, while others like delicate flowers in flower pots. This is normal. Of course, I like it all." Shen Jian didn't say this. However, his answer obviously did not satisfy the city lord's wife. "I mean, between these three sisters and me, who do you like more?" "You." Hear this. The city lord's wife Pain Ninjian was very happy. His eyes rolled. "Stand up. You wait here, come back when I call you." "Not long after." "Come on." Shen Jian was a little curious and looked for the sound. It was an open kitchen. Behind the counter. The mayor's wife half closed her eyes and leaned against the cupboard. Most of the purple dress on her body has been taken off. In her hand, she was holding a bottle of red wine. Then, toppled down. The red wine slid down my body. Time flies. Countdown, 9:23. Come out from the city lord's wife. Shen Jian was filled with emotion. Today, another way to drink red wine has been unlocked. Looked at the time. Shen Jian came to the base where the vampire castle was located again. The Nanjiang Ghost Market has always been held by the current city lord's palace, and the place is always the same. As the previous city lord's palace, the vampire castle naturally has a special resting place here. Open the door. Shen Jian met the third lady Shang Guanwan. She leaned against the window and let the cool breeze blow. A face lightly painted with pink and white, with a smile as warm as Yan's, but also an indifference that repels people from thousands of miles away. The rose dress on her body is the best portrayal of her. Beautiful, but painful. The third lady Shang Guanwan was pleasantly surprised when she saw Shen Jian. "You're here, we haven't seen each other for a long time since last time." Shen Jian also smiled. Among the three sisters in the vampire castle, the third lady, Shang Guanwan, was not born from the bloodline of the vampire ancestor. In other words, the first embrace ceremony of the vampire ancestor only made the third lady more determined. But even without their first embrace, the third lady still had a close relationship with him. "By the way, the newly appointed female city lord, you must have provoked me too." At this time, the third young lady, Shang Guanwan, seemed to have remembered something. He rolled his eyes at Shen Jian. She could almost relate to the responsible mood shown by the wife of the city lord at that time. It can naturally be judged that there is a close relationship between the two. Shen Jian did not respond. I glanced at the favorability panel and saw that it hadn't dropped, which was a good thing. Just when he was about to speak, the third young lady, Shang Guanwan, had already taken the lead and said, "She or I, which one do you like more?" "Shen Jian?" He was slightly startled. The corner of his mouth twitched without leaving any trace. "You must be in cahoots." "You?" Shen Jian said seriously. "Really? Of course, some people like the unattainable peonies, and some people like the majestic bone flowers, but I prefer flowers that are in bud, which is you." "I don't believe it." The third lady Shang Guanwan said she didn't believe it, but her eyes bent down, very helpful. In the same posture, she wrapped her arms around Shen Jian's neck, and the fragrance of roses came to her nostrils. I want to see your sincerity. You only belong to me now. The door closed quietly. Under some kind of stimulation, roses bloomed in the room. Countdown, 5:56. Shen Jian knocked on the door. Shangguan 11, the second lady of the vampire castle, threw herself into Shen Jian's arms. He raised his scarlet and charming eyes and whispered softly, "Master, after you left, I divorced him, and he never touched me from the beginning to the end." Shen Jian's eyes were strange. The second young lady, Shangguan 11, was seriously ill. To be able to make her say such words, it seems that she has been deeply affected by the first embrace ceremony. The horror of vampire bloodline is clear at a glance. Once you are embraced for the first time, you will uncontrollably trust your master, and this influence is so subtle that even the person involved cannot detect it. Certainly. This also requires that the other person has feelings for you. Otherwise, after the first embrace, you will only get an obedient subordinate. I know, I never doubted you. Shen Jian touched her head. Then master, do you like me more or that old woman? Shen Jian? I have provided you with so many evolutionary resources, what do you think? I knew it. The second young lady, Shangguan 11, held her head high and suddenly became charming again. Pulling Shen Jian into a room full of props. Master, I want to evolve into a first-generation vampire. Countdown, 2:43. Shen Jian hasn't knocked on the door yet. The door has opened on its own initiative. The eldest lady Shangguanya stood at the door. The fiery red hair was spread around her waist like blood. You don't know how to ask me who I like more, right? The eldest lady Shangguanya was stunned and said with an incomprehensible look, I don't want to hear you say this, but you are quite brave. If the old city lord finds out, he, as the manager of Nanjiang district, has the ability to let you in at any time. Not here. Have you met the old city lord? Shen Jian asked. No, but I have collected information about him. According to the decadent trend of him being just an abyss-level ghost king, it was impossible for him to seize the managerial authority with the strength of the ghost king in the last Nanjiang competition. There must be something in this. Question. Hear this. Shen Jian frowned. Indeed. The vampire castle has a top ghost king, but in the last Nanjiang hegemony tournament, it lost to the Nanjiang city lord who was only an abyss-level ghost king. There must be something fishy about this. Anyway, you have to be careful. He hasn't appeared for so long, and he has allowed infighting in his supernatural place without doing anything. If he is really decadent, that's fine. If it is fake, it shows that his ambition is greater than anyone imagined. And what you have done is probably known to him, but he has kept it secret. You should be mentally prepared for the scale of his plan. The eldest lady Shangguanya warned. Also, I have seen some things about the other vampire in my grandfather's notes. There may be some clues in it. I will investigate it later. Shen Jian nodded. A long time. He said, don't invite me in for tea? I'm a little thirsty. Hear this. Shangguanya opened the door. She revealed the lace pajamas she had just put on after washing herself. Do you still have dry food now? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Don't you underestimate him. Elbow, come in and let you have a look. Countdown, midnight. Copy of the game, is loading. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 489. Countdown, midnight. Copy of the game, is loading. Seeing the scarlet panel emerge, Shen Jian put on his clothes and covered the naked eldest lady Shangguanya with a quilt. For your own performance. He was very satisfied. Although the time allocation is somewhat limiting, it is still barely enough. It's a pity that he only had half a day and wasn't gentle enough, otherwise he could have played a game of Stack of Arhats. Pity. Shenjian sighed. At this time, the scarlet words continued to be revealed. The player's anchor dungeon has been detected. The special dungeon has been opened and will be forced into the dungeon. This copy cannot be exited. This copy cannot be left. This copy cannot be discarded. Shenjian looked as usual. This was not the first time he had seen this situation. Whether it is the copy of Nanli Ghost City or the copy of Yanjai Kingdom, this prompt is displayed. At present, it seems that 5-star copies have two characteristics. 1. Players need to obtain qualifications on their own or meet triggering conditions. 2. You cannot exit through normal means and must clear customs. In other words, entering a 5-star dungeon means there is no way out. 99% probability of death. 1% chance of survival. Thinking. The game continues to load. The copy has been anchored. It is detected that the player is wearing the title of Dungeon Collapser, and the game becomes more difficult. If a player is detected wearing the title Ghost Seeing Sorrow, the copy will have a certain chance of mutating. The copy is loading. You have completed the match. Copy, Prison Storm. Content, the Nanjiang District competition is located in the most mysterious deep-level ghost realm in the horror world. It is a world far larger than the horror world. You need to explore there, unlock more maps, and gain a higher status. Number of players, 13. Main mission, escape from prison and gain a higher status. Side mission. Task tip, position is the key to victory or defeat. Difficulty, unknown. Warning, due to external influence, this copy is fixed for 1 month. Warning, participants who enter the deep ghost realm due to external interference will leave a mark as a distinction between the participants. As the scarlet panel flashed by, the surrounding scene began to change. Shenjian opened his eyes. I smelled a slightly humid rancid smell in the air, which made my nose feel uncomfortable and my stomach churned. Shenjian frowned slightly. See the surrounding environment clearly. This is a prison. And their identities. The player has entered the deep ghost realm. It is detected that the player carries the Redeemer of the Nation achievement, the background conforms to the concept of a country, and the passive effect is turned on. It is detected that the player carries special status, Hatred of Emperor Qing. When the player enters the Qing Kingdom, the favorability of the people of the Qing Kingdom towards you will be -30. It is detected that the player has half of the permissions of Eternal Night Kingdom, and the hidden task has been activated. The current conditions are insufficient and cannot be triggered. Lines of scarlet fonts continued to emerge. Shenjian looked at them one by one. The Redeemer of the Country achievement is a special reward he received after clearing the Eternal Night Kingdom dungeon. As long as he enters the supernatural land with the concept of country, the chance of his chosen royal family members becoming heirs increases. The location chosen for the Nanjiang tournament is the Zhoujuan Palace in the Deep Ghost Realm, which is called Qingguo. Perfectly matches the triggering conditions. As for the special state, Emperor Qing's hatred. Shenjian thought for a while. This thing seems to be obtained by him getting the blood sacrifice soul pill method and helping the Queen of Eternal Night get rid of her obsession. But he didn't expect that the effect of this special status would be -30 favorability from everyone. Think of this. Shenjian clicked his tongue. 30 favorability is actually nothing. He tried it in the Sweet Home dungeon. This favorability is at most disgusting, but not to the point of being disgusted by gods and ghosts. But don't forget. There is another title effect bonus on him. Dungeon Replica. Naturally -30 favorability. The status is elevated by a certain distance. Adding the two together, the moment he entered the Qing Kingdom, the whole country's people had a -60 favorable opinion of him. This level of negative impression has reached the point where walking on the road suddenly triggers a period of "what are you worried about? What are you looking at?" An ordinary person would have despaired at this time. 60 points of favorability makes it difficult to move. Let alone leaving the prison. Even if you stay in the prison, prisoners and guards may take action against you for no apparent reason. It can be said that this is almost certain death. However, there was a hint of excitement on Shen Jian's face. This effect is wonderful. In other words, if he just provokes someone casually, the other person will be unable to control himself and want to hit him, so wouldn't it be normal for him to fight back? He has the taunt skill of walking. Soon, the other players also teleported over one by one. 11 in total. Luo Quan was naturally among them. Seeing Shen Jian, he felt like he had seen the backbone, and his originally tense expression suddenly relaxed. Fortunately, this so-called Nanjiang district competition only lasts for 1 month. It only lasts for 1 month. If you find a place to survive, there is still hope of surviving. Too naive. Looking at the environment and the prompts on the game panel, we are most likely to be jailers. The advantage of this kind of identity is that we do not need to face life crises, but the shortcomings are also obvious. We need to face the guards and superiors will be exposed if they are not careful. It's not that simple. We still don't know what level of ghosts are imprisoned here. If the terrifying level of the ghosts reaches the Ghost King level or above, the 1-month period will become extremely difficult. Have you all forgotten the point of this dungeon? We need to explore the map and improve our status. Otherwise, we will end up in a horror game without accomplishing anything, and I'm afraid we will be torn apart by the supernatural place where we are. The players were talking to each other, analyzing the current situation. Shen Jian glanced at it. Poker face. Most of these people are high-level players of horror games, and each of them is level 45 or above. They are all veteran players who have joined various supernatural places in the horror world. Such players are regarded as high players in the eyes of others. All have a deep understanding of horror games. Their analysis basically covered the current focus of the copy. By the way, where's that foreign girl? At this time, one player asked vaguely. When the Marquis and Robert died one after another, the female player with the ID Lucy was the highest level player in the game. If they could follow this foreign girl, they would be able to relax a lot. As for Shen Jian, they wanted to follow, but they didn't dare. After all, what Shen Jian did in the neutral land refreshed their impression of the player codenamed Yan Luo. No one can guarantee whether Shen Jian will attack them for no reason and beat them so hard that they can't explain why. It seems that they are separated. She should have another identity, which is different from our start. Everyone looked around, their expressions becoming extremely solemn. All 3 legs are gone, and all that's left is. Others looked around. Shen Jian's eyes also looked over. That was the last person sitting at the table of 4. It's an oriental face. The ID is Roger, level 57. He is a middle-aged man with a strong build, nearly 2 meters tall, giving people the impression of a blind bear in humanoid form. His muscles were bulging so high that his clothes were about to burst. Shen Jian was very interested. The other party's condition is very healthy, even healthier than normal people. But Shen Jian still saw that the opponent's extremely oppressive body was the influence of Li Gui. Play it by ear. The muscular Roger was silent for a few moments before speaking out 4 words with as much preciousness as gold. Tap tap tap. At this time, a heavy footsteps sounded. Everyone looked. A gloomy old man wearing warden clothes came over. The old man was stooped and his steps were stiff when he walked, as if he had trouble walking. However, all players were horrified. Even the muscular man with the ID of Roger suddenly twitched his eyes. Because this old man is a top ghost king. Grass. What a joke. Are they going to work under a top ghost king? Died young. This is no joke. A top ghost king is enough to destroy all players present. Once their identity is revealed, they don't even have a chance to escape. Is this the difficulty of a 5-star copy? All the players felt a layer of gloom in their hearts. At this time, the warden's hoarse voice sounded, "You are the jailers who have entered the capital prison. The prisoners held in the capital prison are all people with high status or important secrets. Your task is to patrol once a day. Make sure these people don't do any tricks. Also, let me remind you that the prison is divided into 3 levels, A, B, and C. Don't choose to go to a higher floor out of curiosity. Otherwise, even if you die, I will arrest your family members. Make sure no secrets get out." Speaking of which, the old man's voice became dark and cruel. The extremely terrifying aura of the top ghost king immediately made all the players present turn pale. The heartbeat slowed down even more. You are all Class C jailers, and you only need to patrol Class C prison locations. As for you, you patrol the Class A detention location," said. The old man pointed at Shen Jian, a trace of bloodthirsty disgust flashing in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, Shen Jian was directly assigned to the most dangerous class of floor. Not for any particular reason. He just simply felt that he didn't like this jailer no matter how he looked at him. Want him to die? Shen Jian. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 490. Chapter 488. Young man, your bones are amazing. At this time, the whole place was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. All players looked horrified. Then he looked at Shen Jian with pity. Class A. Shen Jian was actually assigned to patrol the Class A cell. According to what the warden just said, they are just new guards in Jinglao, who are responsible for the Class C cells, which are located on the first floor. This is the identity assigned to them by Thriller Games. Normally it won't change. However, if you cause displeasure to the evil spirits in the game, you may be forced to adopt a new identity. In this case, usually the dungeon NPC would make a change because it was extremely disgusted with the player, but Shen Jian had just been with them and he had not done anything during this period. Why did he suddenly arouse the warden's disgust? Could it be that, this old man still harbors ill intentions towards the good-looking person? Grass. Yangu. Fortunately, they are average-looking, and because of the supernatural influence of the evil ghosts in their bodies, their looks are not good enough, otherwise they would definitely be dead ends. Think of this. The corners of the players' mouths twitched. It's obviously a happy thing, but the more I think about it, the more sad it becomes. Okay, that's all I have to say. Remember to patrol once a day. If someone calls you, don't pay attention, don't look, don't answer. I hope you guys can last longer and save me from having to ask for people all day long. The warden smiled sadly. Turn around and leave. The rickety body moved stiffly, drifting away. Until it completely disappears from the player's sight. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. There is lingering fear in my heart. Terrible. Just standing in front of a top ghost king, they felt like their whole bodies were trembling and their hearts stopped. I just feel that if I relax a little, my heart will be held in the hands of others. That's an unfounded fear. At this time, the scarlet panel emerged. Side mission, Patrol Cell, Level A. Identity, Class A Jailer. Content, Class A cells hold famous figures in the Qing dynasty. Each of them seems to have a secret. If you communicate in depth, you may gain unexpected gains. Task tip, disguise is the norm. Note, this task is a daily task and will be refreshed every day. Note, each patrol must have no fewer than 3 targets. Note, the current mission is a basic branch, and hidden missions can be unlocked through exploration. Shen Jian glanced twice and looked away. Turn around and leave. He started with minus 60 points of favorability, so it was normal for him to be treated like this. This was exactly what he wanted. What is the difference between a group of prisoners in a prison and an empty buffet? Catching one is also catching two is also catching. He thought it would be good to catch all these prisoners and go back to receive the teachings of his big and loving family. Think of this. Shen Jian's smile grew stronger. The other side. The other players also came to their senses. Looking at Shen Jian's leaving figure, he felt a little regretful and sighed. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Shen Jian is being targeted. But they are just a group of players who are coerced by the horror game. They can't do anything in this 5-star dungeon. Not to mention that the warden is also a top ghost king. Even if you give them hundreds of courage, they will not dare to plead for mercy. Let's go too, said. The other players have also arrived at the Class C detention location on the first floor. Looking around, there is no end in sight. Every 20 meters, there will be a separate cell. The corridor exudes a wet, putrid smell that attacks people's sense of smell. The lights flicker on and off, and it's cold and dead. If you stay in a place like this for a long time, you might go crazy. All the players were shocked. At the same time, they also noticed that most of the prisoners in the cell were Ghost Kings. There are only a few who are not Ghost Kings, their terror level is extremely close, and their identities and backgrounds are so great that even if they are put into the capital prison, they will be released in the future. If they are held grudges in such a place, their future life will not be easy. In this C-level cell, the ratio of top red clothes to Ghost Kings is actually 1:9. At a glance, could there be hundreds of Ghost Kings imprisoned here? You guys, this horror game is because we don't die fast enough. I just saw that there is nothing special about these cells. Apart from the fact that they cannot be opened, the evil spirits inside can use supernatural powers to attack us. Damn it, did this prevent us from being lonely? No wonder the warden said he hoped our group could last longer. I bet we are here to entertain these Ghost Kings. Everyone turned pale. Although they are all high-level players, they are regarded as great players in the eyes of others, but in front of this dense row of Ghost King-level prisoners, whether it is a 4-star player or a 5-star player, they all look the same. The C-level cells are so scary, so how scary are the B-level and even A-level cells above them? Are they all Abyss-level, even top Ghost King-level prisoners? Hear this. All players immediately thought of Shen Jian. The compassion in his eyes deepened. He looked like Shen Jian is dead. Ah! At this time, suddenly there was a scream from behind. Everyone turned around suddenly. I saw a player's face stuck in front of one of the cells. The skin on his face was peeling off, and pieces of flesh and blood fell out. On the window of the iron prison, a sinisterly smiling face appeared in the darkness, as if trying to squeeze his head out of the iron window. What happened? The muscular man with the ID of Roger roared fiercely. Others were also extremely wary. We don't know. At that time, he said that there was no one in the cell and it was a bit strange, so he came closer, ready to take a look at the situation through the bars, and then he pressed his body tightly against it as if he was possessed. A player who saw the process explained. I've already given you a reminder. Don't pay attention, don't look, don't answer. Just concentrate on doing your job as a jailer. Even if a prisoner is found missing during patrol, we only need to report it. Someone will naturally check it. Why should we worry? As for side missions, that's not something we can complete. Luo Quan is quite self-aware. He knows that his game level is the lowest in the game. Once Li Gui's killing pattern is triggered, he will have no chance. But the killing pattern triggered by the dead player almost affected him. To this end, his face was livid, and he was even more scared inside. Experience this little episode. The remaining 10 players became quite silent. Less than 10 minutes after arriving at the dungeon, a level 49 player was lost. This is the top ghost controller who controls the puzzle of 3 powerful ghosts. In their team, they are already considered to be at the top level. But just now, facing the attack of a Ghost King level prisoner, the player didn't even survive for 3 seconds before he died in the supernatural attack. Such a comparison makes the Ghost King level ghost even more terrifying. If you relax even a little bit, you may die. Think of this. The atmosphere at the scene has solidified a lot. No one spoke anymore. Just stay on guard and patrol from room to room. In their hearts, they had already labeled Shen Jian as dead. A Class C cell is so terrifying, a Class A cell is unimaginable. At the same time, Shen Jian had also found the location and walked up to the Class A cell on the 3rd floor. There aren't many cells here. It only takes about 30 rooms at a time. There are hundreds of meters between each cell. Aisles are clean and tidy. It is completely different from the wet and rancid smell unique to other places. Shen Jian's eyes showed a bit of surprise. The prisoners here are treated well. But if you think about it carefully, there are only a handful of big shots in the entire Qing kingdom who can be locked up in a Class A cell. It doesn't seem strange to have such treatment. Shen Jian walked up. Next moment, an old voice came from one of the cells. "Little doll, come here." Shen Jian was stunned. Then he grinned. He hadn't officially patrolled yet, and he didn't expect that some prisoners would become unable to hold on any longer so soon. Think about it. Shen Jian walked over. At the same time, he asked with a strange expression, "Old man, what's the matter?" Said. Shen Jian walked to cell number 3. He opened the small window in front of the iron prison without any scruples. "Look away." He saw an old man with gray hair and a fairy-like manner smiling kindly at him. "Little baby, I can tell at a glance that you have amazing bones and extraordinary talents, but you are not enlightened and cannot show your strengths. Old man, I have a supernatural thing that can help you advance quickly. Do you want it?" The old man took it from his body. A vessel containing black blood was taken out. The gesture must be handed out through the small window. Shen Jian had no doubt at all. "Even closer." He said happily, "Of course. I have known for a long time that I have extraordinary talents, but I have never had the space to show them. Old man, you have good taste." "Elder. Damn it. You have such a big face." "Old man, let me tell you by the way, you take it seriously. And firmly believe in it. So confident, no, so narcissistic." However, just when Shen Jian was about to approach the small window of iron prison number 3, another voice suddenly sounded. That's a woman's voice. The voice is cold, elegant, and has a reassuring comfort. "If I were you, I would step back now and close the small window. The vessel holding the ghost blood is one of his entities. Once you take it out, the ghost blood will merge into your body and will all your digestion." Hear this voice. Shen Jian was slightly startled. Looking for the sound, it was the noise coming from cell number 1. Judging from the voice, it seemed to be a female prisoner. And the other party is trying to save him. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. A prisoner who was imprisoned in a Class A cell actually wanted to save his jailer? Thinking. The voice from cell number 1 continued. "And don't be fooled by his appearance. What's hidden behind that human appearance is his true appearance. He has 2 faces. The so-called improvement of strength is just his trick to deceive you." Hear this. Shen Jian's expression became even weirder. Think about it. It seems that your vision is not very good, but this old man knows the goods. He can see my essence at a glance. Old man, bring it here quickly, I want it now," said. Shen Jian seemed impatient and had already put one hand into the small window, waving to the old man to take what was handed to him. In an instant, the place suddenly became quiet. Cell no one. The word you and salt don't enter is specially prepared for you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 491. Inside the cell. At this time, Shen Jian was a little impatient. He put his hand into the most dangerous part of the prison and shouted, "Old man, please bring it here quickly. I also think I am a genius." Cell no one. No. Why are you so stubborn? You didn't listen at all to what I said. Do the current jailers in Beijing take up their posts without any training? The prisoners in cell number 1 were a little overwhelmed. Reaching into a cell where prisoners are held, it feels like a human goes to a zoo to feed food to a crocodile. It doesn't matter if you don't throw the food in, but you go over the railing and go into the water to feed it. Are you afraid that the crocodiles will not be enough to eat? Newcomer, are you looking for death? Do you know who he is? He was a liar who deceived 2 princes. Only then was he convicted by the emperor and imprisoned here. If he really has such ability, how can he will be imprisoned here? The man in cell number 1 was furious. The cold voice became a little sharp. Shen Jian didn't care at all. He blinked and said, "The prince is a prince, and I am me. They have no understanding, but I do. The villagers from Shilibaxiang have said that I have the qualifications of a ghost king since I was a child. Now I finally meet someone who can see through my genius status." Cell no one? God is so talented as a ghost king. Why don't you say you have the talent of ghosts and gods? The other side. The old man in cell number 3 saw Shen Jian's bold operation. I was stunned for a moment. What a stupid young man who doesn't have enough food and salt. He has been imprisoned here for decades, and this is the first time he has seen someone so unafraid of death. This guy is definitely new here. I don't even know the rules here. Thinking. Shen Jian's voice was a little impatient as he said, "Old man, are you going to give it to me or not?" Only then did the old man come to his senses. A kind smile appeared on Xianfeng Daogu's face, and where no one could see, the back of the old man's head, which was covered by his long hair, also showed a sinister grimace. 2 faces were laughing at the same time. He held the vessel containing the ghost blood and handed it over. Even when he saw Shen Jian's hand shaking in front of him, he still didn't do anything unusual and simply handed the utensil to Shen Jian. Under normal circumstances, he would definitely choose to tear off Shen Jian's hand and let this ignorant jailer die. But now, he has changed his mind. This kid is so inexperienced, maybe he can be tricked into opening the cell door. Little baby, don't listen to that stupid woman in cell number 1. She is just jealous of your possession of ghosts and gods. As long as you listen to me, there is no problem even if you are promoted to ghosts and gods, let alone the Ghost King. I feel the same way. Shen Jian nodded in agreement. Cell no one. Ha ha ha, little baby, you have great vision. Old man, I have been imprisoned in Daking Jingjing prison for almost decades, and I haven't had much interaction with others. You are very suitable to my taste. I will teach you various skills now. The old man smiled. The grimace on the back of his head is even more ferocious. He was sure. This guy is so easy to fool. With his strength that is infinitely close to the top level of Ghost King, it is not easy to teach a little jailer some techniques to advance to the Ghost King level. When the time comes, he will leave more hooks and slowly lure the little doll to open the door for him. Click. Just when the old man was thinking about the future, The door of cell number 3 opened. Elder. He was slightly startled. Everyone was stunned. His eyes widened when he saw Shen Jian opening the cell door and walking straight in. Damn it! What's the matter with you, young man? Why don't you play your cards according to the routine? I haven't even begun to seduce you yet, and I haven't used your desire to improve your strength to arouse your desire. You, why did you get in? The old man looked confused and said subconsciously, I am a prisoner here and you are the jailer. We have different positions. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Shen Jian came to the old man, patted him on the shoulder, and said sincerely, I can see that you are a good person. Besides, I couldn't hear it through the door. Elder. He couldn't handle these two short sentences. All of a sudden. He actually didn't know whether to continue with the process or take action directly. The old man looked at Shen Jian who was so close, and these two thoughts flashed through his mind. Then, his head began to spin, and his original immortal spirit suddenly turned into a ferocious and twisted grimace. Jajaja, little baby, I have to thank. Bo. The words have not yet finished. The sinister laughter on the old man's face stopped abruptly. He lowered his head stiffly. I saw my head moving away from my body, as if someone had taken my head off. Take another look. The one who took off his head was not Shen Jian. He saw Shen Jian grabbing his head with both hands, and with a gentle pull, the head was separated from the body. Then, he saw Shen Jian turn his head in a different direction and put it back on again. Let that immortal face reappear in the front. Old man, tell a ghost story and let another face come out. Now you are teaching, and this face still looks pleasing to the eye. By the way, tell me the skills to advance to ghosts and gods. Shen Jian said with a smile. Double-faced ghost? I'm super, you Dogecoin thing took off my head and put it back on again, just because you don't like it? I am your uncle. Besides, who knows how to advance to the level of ghosts and gods? If I had known, I would have become a ghost and god by now, and I would still be locked up in the capital prison and let you, a piece of shit, mess with me. Think of this. The old man's eyes became vicious. The eyes looking at Shen Jian were filled with bloodlust. Even more so with a bit of madness. Boy, are you kidding me? But it doesn't matter. You opened the cell door and I finally had a chance to get out. I was locked up here by that dog emperor. I must take revenge on him and kill his disciples and grandchildren. Said. The old man ignored Shen Jian. Just go outside. Old man, you haven't taught me the skills yet. Shen Jian grabbed the other party. The old man did not look back, and the sinister face on the back of his head faced Shen Jian with a sinister smile. Little baby, if I had this skill, I would have used it a long time ago. I still need to take advantage of you here, so I can help you for the sake of opening the cell door. I have forgiven you for your rude behavior just now. If you don't let go, I won't mind killing you first before leaving the prison. No. No. The old man's tone became increasingly impatient. Struggling hard at the same time. However, he found that the big palm leaf fan hand that grabbed his wrist was as if it were made of steel and there was no way he could break free. This moment. The old man had bad thoughts in his heart. The next second. He was kicked out directly. Smashed hard against the wall nearby. What the hell, if you didn't tell me earlier, what's the difference between this and illegal propaganda? Shen Jian spat and cursed. The old man was also stunned. Looking at the jailer's eyes, he suddenly became frightened. Damn it, this is not only a stupid young man, but also a capable stupid young man. From the collision just now, he could clearly know that he was no match for this little jailer. But the cell door is now open. There was no need for him to dwell on it any longer. As long as he escapes from the prison, he will be free. Then, The old man struggled to stand up. Run towards the cell door. Oh, you still dare to run. Who gave you the courage? I thought you were the one who could unlock the mission, but I didn't expect it was useless at all. You are really a waste. Shenji unclicked his tongue. Take out the morning stick. Rushed forward. You, brother, don't come over. The old man screamed in horror. G, 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 it's useless to call you brother G. Even if you break your throat today, no one will come to save you. A strange smile appeared on Shen Jian's face. The stick can fly. Screams came and went. 10 minutes later. Shen Jian walked out of cell number 3 refreshed. It's been a long time since I've done it myself, and with this beating, I finally got my feeling back. It was this feeling of pain that hit his flesh, which made him feel good. Crunch. The door to cell number 3 closed again. But it's not locked. It is in a state where it can be opened with just a push. From the small window, you can see a huddled figure squatting in the corner in the darkness, licking his wounds alone. No matter how you look at it, it's pitiful. No matter how you look at it, it's miserable. Hey, you came out? That old liar didn't attack you or try to escape. I saw Shen Jian walking out safe and sound. There was another sound coming from cell number 1. There was a bit of confusion in the cold tone. Although the old liar was imprisoned in a class A cell for deceiving the prince, he was still an abyss-level ghost that was infinitely close to the top ghost king. How could he be so obedient and not choose to take action? Didn't you take action against this little jailer? I was shocked by my peerless talent and came to worship. Shen Jian said casually. Then came to cell number 1. Fumbling for something. What are you doing? The cold voice continued. Look for a small window. There are actually female prisoners in this grade A cell. I haven't tried to talk to female prisoners, as a jailer, I am familiar with the prisoners here. It makes sense. Shen Jian changed his words. Cell no 1. She opened her mouth, her desire to complain became extremely strong. Just think of yourself as taking roll call in class. When other guards came over, they were all very cautious, not to mention talking to prisoners like them, and they didn't even dare to approach the cells. But the man in front of him not only dared to put his hand into the cell, but he also dared to open the cell door and walk in. To be honest, she had never encountered anything like this since she was imprisoned in the capital prison. Don't waste your efforts. Cell number 1 is special. There is no small window to look through, because this kind of peeping behavior is an insult to the people living in cell no 1. Hear this. Shen Jian became more interested. He just felt it. There are more than a dozen top ghost kings imprisoned here, but all the cells are treated equally. He really couldn't imagine that there was anyone in Qingguo with a higher status than the top ghost king. Spirits. Basically impossible. To imprison a ghost and god, his 18 levels of hell are currently unable to do so, let alone this capital prison. It's not a ghost or god, it can only be a noble person. And in the entire Qing kingdom, who else has a more noble status than the royal family? Is there a female royal being imprisoned here? What are you doing again? Open the door. Cell no 1. You are really bold, but you can't open it without my consent. At this time, a scarlet panel emerged. Trigger side mission. Side mission, the trust of Princess Daking. Content, for some reasons, the eldest princess of Daking was imprisoned in the capital prison to relieve her psychological defense and gain her trust to unlock subsequent tasks. Note, players carrying the Redeemer of the Nation achievement have been passively enabled. Note, please choose carefully. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 492. Look at the game panel for prompts. A flash of surprise flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. They are really members of the Qing Kingdom's royal family. And she is the eldest princess of a country. Will such a person be imprisoned in Beijing? What kind of mistakes do you have to make to deserve such treatment? Shen Jian was thoughtful. Quickly skimming through the introduction column, I came up with some ideas. According to the game introduction, the Princess of Daking was forced to go to prison for some reasons, but unlike ordinary prisoners, she not only had her own privacy in the cell, but the door of the cell was controlled by the other party. In other words, the eldest princess can leave at any time as long as she wants to. This is not like prisoner treatment. Thinking. Shen Jian stopped what he was doing. Didn't get started anymore. Judging from the side missions, the Princess of Daking is hiding here for safety reasons. If he goes in now, the other party will only think that he has ulterior motives. Just give up. Trust me, opening cell number 1 will not do you any good. In cell number 1, indifferent voices continued to come out. Then I have to know who you are, right? Shen Jian said casually. What's the use of knowing this? A jailer like you usually dies within a month. During the period when I moved in, there have been more than a dozen batches of jailers here, and none of them can survive. If you keep doing this, escape, and you can collect the body tomorrow. The eldest princess of Daking said, neither salty nor lightly. I think you were sent here because you offended the warden. Usually class A jailers patrol in groups of 3 and only appear once every 10.5 months. Like you can tell at a glance that you have offended people. Shen Jian did not refute. Because that is indeed the case. Oh, you are so discerning, why are you being imprisoned? Princess Daking? She was slightly startled. Savored it carefully. Is this little jailer mocking her now? She looked in disbelief. She was the eldest princess of the country, yet she was laughed at by a jailer with such a low status. I was. The eldest princess subconsciously wanted to retaliate, but she quickly closed her mouth and bit her teeth. The resentment in his eyes almost penetrated the cell. Damn it! This was a jailer summoned from somewhere. He didn't understand the rules in the prison, but he knew how to insult people. Never mind. She couldn't afford to be angry with a little jailer. Judging from the stupid behavior of the other party when he faced the old liar, he probably wouldn't survive here for more than a few days. Seeing that the eldest princess had no reaction, Shen Jian ignored it. Continue patrolling. The triggered side mission of Princess Daking was an unexpected gain. But what he really wanted to trigger was the hidden mission related to the Kingdom of Evernight. He had reason to suspect that this hidden mission was related to the destruction of Yanjai Kingdom. Back then, when he was interrogating De Chongfeng, one of the 4 top ghost kings of Yangye Kingdom, De Kangfeng once said that the former emperor of Yangye Kingdom obtained something from Qing Kingdom, and then established Yangye Kingdom. But until the copy ended, he didn't ask what this thing was. Now, a hidden mission related to the Kingdom of Evernight was activated. He had an intuition that this was consistent with his purpose of recovering Luo Feng for 6 days. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes fell on the rows of cells ahead. There must be one of these people who can let him activate the mission. With this thought, Shen Jian quickly started his first patrol of the day. There were no problems in the first half. Most of the prisoners inside were in a state of hibernation. There is no sense of the outside world. And just as he was passing by cell number 15, a murmuring voice suddenly sounded. Child, are you confused? Shen Jian looked over. It was a middle-aged man who looked gentle and elegant. Wear a decent teacher's uniform. Through the small window of the iron prison, a gentle voice came to him. Child, I see that you are very confused. Do you want to come and talk to me? Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. Just as he was about to speak, the eldest princess in cell number 1 spoke again. I advise you to stay away from him, he is a lunatic. How to say? I don't know how you got out of the hands of old liar number 3, but the further back the class a cell is, the higher the terror level of the prisoners it holds. The first cell number 10 only holds abyss-level ghosts who have offended the royal family, but after cell number 10, those incarcerated are pure evil spirits. He is a top ghost king who poses a major threat to the country and can cause huge damage. And the prisoner number 15 in front of you is such a madman. He is a teacher, but he does not teach knowledge, he only brainwashes. Everyone who communicates with him will eventually become a criminal who harms society. What he is best at is through in-depth communication with others, step-by-step guiding others' hatred, and then implanting other paranoid thoughts. Did you know that this madman incited more than 1,000 paranoid people to launch a terrorist attack on King Guo? We lost 3 top ghost kings before we caught him. Don't answer him, pretend he doesn't exist, otherwise once he succeeds in brainwashing you, you'll be finished. Princess Daking's voice was a bit harsh. Class A cells hold evil spirits who pose a major threat to the Qing kingdom, but cannot be killed due to various reasons. Every time such an evil spirit steps out, turmoil is inevitable. In the hundreds of years since the Qing dynasty, the number of top ghost kings imprisoned by Qiaozuo has exceeded double digits. Once any problem occurs, it will not be a trivial matter for the country and the people. Crunch. However, the next second, there was a heavy push on the door. The cell door of iron cell number 15 was opened. Princess Daking. She was furious. It's almost like crushing the back molars. What happened to this little jailer? This is an undercover agent sent by the enemy, right? You act like a jailer, just patrol. What the hell are you doing to open the prisoner's door? Are you afraid that these prisoners won't be able to escape? And the prisoner escaped, what should you, the jailer, do? One life is worth one? She was depressed. I could only watch as Shen Jian walked into cell number 15. She suddenly felt that if the little jailer was allowed to live a few more days, she might suffer a myocardial infarction at a young age. The other side. Shen Jian opened the door of the iron prison, looked at the paranoid man who was stunned in place, and said, "Hello, master, I am very confused, what should I do?" The paranoid man was stunned for a moment. The look he looked at Shen Jian became more and more dangerous. As a top ghost king, he could kill Shen Jian easily, but since the jailer was so courageous and took the initiative to come to his cell, he would not use any cruel method. Then, the paranoid man stretched out his hand, with a smile like a spring breeze on his face. "I am a teacher, and I am best at helping people mediate. If you are confused about anything, you can tell me as much as you want, and I will help you relieve your confusion." "Really?" "Of course, you can trust me completely." The paranoid man kept smiling. "I have communicated with thousands of students with psychological problems and helped them correct their problems one by one. I am professional in this regard." "Okay, what are you confused about?" He blocked the door and asked Shen Jian to go inside. Shen Jian pondered for a moment. I am a person with low self-esteem." "Hear this?" The smile on the bigot's face grew wider. His smile turned sinister. Having low self-esteem is a really good character. He likes tutoring students with this kind of personality the most. Among the thousands of students he has mediated, more than 100 of them have a certain degree of inferiority complex. Most of the students in this category do not come from wealthy families. Material conditions cannot be fully met. I become sensitive, suspicious, and less confident. He only needs to instill some truth into the past, and he can easily gain the other party's trust and start his brainwashing. The success rate is close to 100%. In his opinion, the little jailer in front of him was already in his pocket. Think of this. The paranoid man took out a piece of paper. It was a piece of parchment, a supernatural thing that could turn what others had said into memories and present them. This step is important. You can completely tear apart the other party's disguise in front of the victim, allowing him to witness everything he dare not face, aggravating the other party's inferiority complex. Only in this way can he turn the other party into the paranoid person he wants to the greatest extent possible. Inferiority is not terrible. What is terrible is not being able to face it. The paranoid man recounted, remember those memories that make you feel inferior. We need to solve this problem. Hear this. Shen Jian frowned, then there was a bit of pain in his eyes, and he covered his head and said, those memories are too painful, I don't want to talk about it. If we don't talk about it, it will never be solved. Well, I said. I have been a person with low self-esteem since I was a child. I remember one time when I was driving, I met a mother and her son who wanted to take a taxi to the hospital. She said that her child was sick and needed to see a doctor. I saw that the other person was walking so slowly, so I rushed. The hospital might be closed when we arrived, so we decided to help her. So, I snatched her child, and let her chase her all the way. Sure enough, under my control, the mother broke out at extraordinary speed and ran several kilometers away in a few minutes. Then I gave her baby back to her piece by piece. Paranoid? He blinked. He looked at the words recorded on the parchment again. Slowly typed a question mark on the public screen.